While the world screamed for attention, he chose the silence. While others reached out begging for validation, he kept his hands in his pockets and kept walking. He wasn't driven by applause. He didn't need cheers to feel alive. All he needed was the storm inside him that whispered, "You're not done yet." There was a time he wanted people to notice him. A time when he tried to fit in, when he laughed at jokes that didn't land, when he shrunk himself just to make others feel tall. He gave pieces of himself away, time, energy, dreams, just to be accepted. And every time he did, something inside him cracked. Until one day, he looked in the mirror and saw a stranger staring back. A man drained by everyone else's expectations. A man who had forgotten who he was. That was the day he stopped running toward people and started walking toward purpose. He didn't make a big announcement. No, "I'm cutting everyone off" post. No drama, no rage, just a quiet exit from a world that didn't know how to value him. He disappeared, not to hide, but to build. He disconnected to reconnect with the fire inside, and every step away from the noise brought him closer to something greater than approval. He walked alone, not because he hated people, but because he needed to remember how to love himself again. In a world that worships noise, he found strength in the quiet. While others posted, he practiced. While others flexed, he focused. While they partied, he planned. And when they laughed at his absence, he was writing the blueprint for a legacy they wouldn't understand until it was too late. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't angry. He was just done explaining his vision to people who had no hunger. He realized that lions don't bother trying to teach sheep how to hunt. So he stopped wasting time convincing others and started converting his pain into power. He turned every setback into strategy, every failure into fuel, and every lonely night into a lesson. They said he changed. Of course he did. Pain will either harden you or sharpen you, and he chose to be the blade. He outgrew the shallow conversations, the empty friendships, the people who only checked in when they needed something. He stopped being available to those who were never there for him, and in that silence he discovered something priceless: freedom. It wasn't easy. There were nights when the weight of loneliness felt unbearable. Nights where the silence screamed louder than the chaos ever did. But he didn't quit. He didn't numb it with distractions. He sat in it, faced it, let it burn. Because he knew that only in the fire could he forge the man he was meant to become. No one saw the sacrifices, the early mornings, the sleepless nights, the tears that fell in the dark, the prayers whispered with trembling hands, the self-doubt he had to wrestle with alone. No one saw the days when he questioned everything, when giving up seemed easier than going on. But he kept walking, step after step, alone but not empty, lonely but not lost. Because deep down, he believed. Even when no one else did, he believed in himself. He didn't need motivation. He had memory. He remembered the people who doubted him, the ones who said he'd never make it, the ones who laughed when he failed. He remembered the doors that slammed in his face, the no's that piled up, the betrayal, the fake love, the silent rejections. And he used it all. Every scar, every wound, every ounce of pain, he turned it into bricks and built with it. Brick by brick, he created something no one could see coming. Not overnight, not with shortcuts, but through consistency, discipline, and obsession. While they were distracted, he was developing. While they were scrolling, he was studying. While they were busy being liked, he was becoming unstoppable. And then one day, the silence broke, not with noise, but with results. The empire he built started to rise, quietly, powerfully, unapologetically, and the same people who once ignored him now watched in awe. Some tried to return, some claimed they always believed, but he didn't have time for explanations or revenge. His success wasn't built on spite, it was built on silence. And it spoke louder than anything they could say. They called him lucky, but they didn't see the nights he bled for it. They called him gifted, but they didn't witness the years of grinding in the shadows. They said he'd changed, and he did. He became everything they said he couldn't be, not to prove them wrong, but to prove himself right. The man who walked alone learned things no crowd could teach. He learned how to lead himself, how to fight his demons in the dark, how to stay standing when everything around him collapsed. He didn't just grow, he transformed. And in the silence, he found something louder than the world's noise: purpose. He wasn't chasing clout. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing legacy. Something real. Something that would last long after the likes and views faded. Something that would echo in generations. Not because he shouted, but because he built something that whispered to the soul. And now, he moves with a quiet confidence. He doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. He lets his presence speak. His energy commands rooms before he even opens his mouth. He doesn't need to be the loudest. He's the most consistent. He doesn't need attention. He has impact. He walks into rooms they said he'd never enter, shakes hands with people they claimed were out of his league, lives a life that once felt like a dream, and through it all he remembers the silence. He carries it with him, not as a wound, but as a weapon, a reminder of what he survived, a symbol of what built him. He's not perfect. He's still healing, still growing, still learning, but he's a man now. A man who doesn't flinch when storms come because he was raised in the rain. A man who doesn't fear solitude because it was in solitude that he found strength. A man who doesn't beg for love because he learned to love himself first. He no longer needs permission to exist boldly. He no longer waits for others to choose him. He chose himself. And that choice changed everything. Because the moment you stop asking the world to validate your worth is the moment you become dangerous, unstoppable, free. And maybe you're that man. Maybe you're in that silent season right now. Maybe you're walking alone. Maybe no one sees your effort. Maybe the nights are long and the journey feels endless. But let this remind you, empires are never built in public. They're built in silence, in sacrifice, in solitude. Keep building, keep believing, keep walking. Because one day they'll look around and realize you didn't just survive, you rose. You didn't just change, you became. And the world will finally see what the silence was shaping all along. A man who walked alone and built an empire they'll never forget.